Good evening and welcome to the Ordinance Subcommittee. Today is Tuesday, June 14, 2022, 7:03. Members are present. Councilor Selena Reyes, Councilor Maria de la Cruz, Councilor Levin is absent, and Councilor President is also present. Roll call. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Present.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz.
Present.
Councilor President.
Present.
And the chair is present. Council, can I get a motion to approve the minute of the meeting of May 24, 2022?
So move.
Motion has been made.
Second.
The motion has been made, properly seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Present.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor President.
Present.
And the chair is voting yes. Motion passed. Councilor, we're going to be taking a few items out of orders. First item is, can I get a motion to take document 19322 out of order?
So move.
Motion has been made, properly seconds. All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Councilor Selena Reyes. To take it out of order, yes. Councilor Maria de la Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor President.
Yes.
And the chair is voting yes. Document 19322, update the city storm water management ordinance chapter 20.03. It has been put on the agenda by Commissioner Milagros A. Puegos. Good evening.
200 Common Street. So as you mentioned, Madam Chair, I'm here to present an item which will update the city's stormwater management ordinance, chapter 20.03, stormwater management and erosion control. In 2016, the EPA region reissued the general permit for stormwater discharge for small municipal separate storm sewer system, or MS4 general permit. The MS4 general permit became effective in 2018, and the City of Lawrence filed a notice of intent to comply with the conditions of the permit. The permit allows the city to discharge stormwater and any pollutant into the stormwater of its MS4. The MS4 is the city's drainage system. As part of the permit effort, I have been working with Woodard & Kern, the city's engineers, on updating the city's stormwater management ordinance, chapter 20.03. The permit now requires that the city establishes consistent land development policies related to stormwater management. Woodard & Kern has updated the ordinance and submitted it for the city for review. This document was reviewed by various departments within the city, such as Water Department, the Board of Health, the Office of Planning and Development, the Conservation Commission, DPW and Engineering Department, and the City Attorney. Comments from all the departments were received and integrated into the final document. I have with me here tonight, councilors, I have Zach Anderson from Woodard & Kern, who has prepared a short presentation to give you and the public some information regarding the changes that are being made to the ordinance.
Thank you, Council, and thank you for moving us up in the agenda. Appreciate that. So Millie did a great job there. I'm just going to advance through a few of these slides, and what I was going to do is provide a brief overview of some of the changes associated with the new stormwater discharge permit that the City of Lawrence currently is operating under. So I'm going to provide a little bit of background and then just jump right into where the key changes are in both the ordinance and in the draft regulations that we put together associated with the ordinance. Yeah, thanks. That's great. So this is a quite simplistic rendering of a typical drainage system in any community in the United States. And what we know from doing work on this for the last 20 years is 1 out of every 2 of your community members really don't understand how this system works. This infrastructure is below the ground. People don't know how it interacts with the natural environment. So this is a very challenging thing for us often to talk about with community in general, right? So stormwater is a difficult thing to understand. But all over the city, we have these little storm drain systems. They're connected to piping. That piping flows out to the nearest stream. Anytime it rains, things that are on the landscape wash off and end up in our waterways. These discharge locations are regulated by the EPA across the country. So you can go to the next slide. Thank you, Millie. So this just shows a little bit about how this pollution, which is very dilute, but there's a lot of it. When it rains very hard, inches over hours, we get many, many billions of gallons of water that ends up into our nearest waterways, into the Spigot, into the Merrimack River. So again, it's a very important part of our pollution prevention programs moving forward is going to be focused on stormwater. The EPA has made this a priority for their compliance programs in New England and across the country, and so it's very important to kind of keep up with the regulations as we move forward, and that's what we're talking about today. So this is just, again, a little bit of the MS4. There are two primary wastewater pipes underground. One is the sanitary wastewater system. You all also have a combined system that includes some stormwater, and then the separated storm sewer system. That's where those 4 S's come from related to MS4. So the municipal separate storm sewer system. So this is not the combined system, and across the city you have a fairly substantial piece of infrastructure buried under the ground that the city needs to take care of and manage and then control pollution discharging from it. So you can go to the next one. And so this is a few facts for your drainage system in the city of Lawrence. You have about 40 miles of underground stormwater drainage pipe, several thousand catch basins. Those are those little storm drains you can see on the street that connect the surface water to the piping infrastructure under the ground. About 1,000 manholes and about 120 stormwater discharge locations. So this is where the water comes out the end of the pipe, ends up in the rivers. And these are the things that are regulated by the EPA and put you into the program. So you can go ahead. What you're required to do on an annual basis is manage a program, mostly prescriptive, procedural, policy-related actions. So help the public be involved in understanding their role in keeping water clean, very important. Managing leaky sanitary wastewater systems, that's an illicit discharge detection program. You have a very aggressive program to try to fix leaky sewers that are maybe leaking into the storm drain. We don't want that to happen. And then really the pollution prevention and good housekeeping programs are your street sweeping programs, cleaning the system, making sure things that are on the ground get picked up before they end up getting washed off into the environment. The provisions we're here to talk about are 4 and 5, the construction site runoff control program and the post-construction control program. And frankly, what these are is really about how you manage land development within your community to minimize impacts on the environment and on flooding. And so that's really the changes to the ordinance that we're here to talk about tonight. And I guess I'd put this in here so you just know that you're not alone. There's about 7,000, over 7,000 regulated communities across the country related to this permitting program. And kind of new for most of these, last 20 years or so in the Clean Water Act. So we'll get into provisions here of the changes. So the existing stormwater ordinance, as written, developed in 2014, is the intention of that ordinance, obviously, is to protect natural resources from the impacts of stormwater. It requires certain land development projects of certain size or certain applicability to obtain a stormwater management permit. And by doing so, there also are requirements for that developer to do some things on the property to both control erosion and sediment control during construction, make sure dirty stuff's not washing off while it's getting built, and then also after it's built to control the stormwater runoff from the actual facility. And there's lots of little engineering ways we can do that. Below grade storage systems, filtration systems, there's a lot of engineering solutions for those controls. We established at the time the Board of Health as the authority to administer the ordinance, and the Board of Health can delegate that authority and has done so to Public Works and Water and Sewer. So the city currently has an ordinance as it is written that requires performance standards to meet the state standards under the state stormwater handbook. And so why are we doing any changes to this? Well, we have a new permit. The new MS4 general permit is in place. That permit has changed the performance standards that they want to see communities that are regulated under the permitting program do. So they've upped the requirements for water quality provisions. And so you need to do the same within yours. So the EPA and the federal government's telling communities that are regulated that they want higher standards for water quality. And so what we're doing is we've revised these to address that. So that's the largest change within your ordinance, is it's going to require slightly stricter requirements for water quality. There are some very technical details within the permitting program that will allow developers and their engineering applicants to get pretty creative, though, with how they meet these requirements. So the way that it's written currently in the ordinance and in the regulations can allow a fair amount of flexibility to developers to come up with innovative solutions. There's a lot of new technologies that are out there that are kind of embedded into the permitting program. So there's also a few more specific requirements around as-built and ensuring that you all are getting the information about what has been designed and what has been built on a site, and more language around so-called low-impact development. You're a very urban community. It's very hard to do low-impact development at this point. You've developed most of the landscape in the city, but there's language there. So those are the revisions. They require new performance standards for water quality, and then there's a few other elements that are kind of baked into the requirements as well. So we've made some changes, and there haven't been large changes to the ordinance. If you'll look at the redlined copy of the ordinance changes, I don't know if you have that in your packet or have seen that. You can go to the next slide. I've kind of outlined a few of those. So we added some additional definitions for consistency with the new MS4 general permit. I wanted to get those things consistent. What we've done now to address the performance standard issue for water quality is we reference both the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook standards, which we always did. That's related to the Wetlands Protection Act, which has been in place in Massachusetts since the 70s. But we also reference now the MS4 general permit. So applicants have to be consistent with both of those documents. The handbook standards, which are out of date, and the general permit, which is up to date. And so that allows you then to put together the regulations that we have done and drafted that provide the very details that an applicant developer would need to go through process to obtain a permit. And so the important piece here is this regulations. The ordinance has always referenced regulations, but they've never been adopted by the City of Lawrence. The regulations allow a developer applicant to understand a number of additional elements related to the permit application process. So if you go to the next slide, we can kind of walk through what's in the regulations. So the regulations provide the detailed permit application procedures. Any change to regulations under the statute doesn't require us to come back to the council for adjustment. The Board of Health has authority to modify regulations. So it's nice to have those as permit conditions change, as fee structures change. It's nice to have regulations in place so we don't have to come back to City Council for changes to an ordinance. So you have the ordinance that provides the structure, and then the regulations that provide details related to application procedures, details related to the submission requirements, what do people have to do, how do they have to design it, very detailed. I think they're 20 pages or so long of details on what the applicant developer really needs to do and what they need to submit to the city, how they need to manage their inspectional programs, how they can get a certificate of completion. All of the details are really in the regulations. And we've addressed the updated performance standards there. And I think that's what we have for tonight. So I appreciate it. Let's do a little background there. It helps us with our permitting
Thank you for the
program.
presentation. I'm just going to open the floor for the councilor, and I'm going to reserve my question for last. Councilor, any question? Councilor President.
Thank you. Can you just talk a little bit more about the Board of Health delegation? You mentioned it, I forget what page the slide is on, but you began by the 2014 stormwater ordinances that there was a designation, and it seems like that might be altered somewhat in the new one. I'm just, can you just, that's kind of news to me. I'm just unfamiliar with it. Can you just kind of give me an idea? I get the idea. Why bother the council on these things? Let's go to the Board of Health and let them figure it out, right? So we delegated that responsibility for us. But can you talk a little bit about how we got to that point and what they're doing?
Well, for most ordinances or bylaws across the Commonwealth, there is, in this particular provision of your local policy, there's usually an enforcement authority. There's an authority that's designated. And very rarely is that a council. It's most often a Department of Public Works, a Conservation Commission in some cases that would then take on mutual duties associated with, wetlands protection and stormwater. We had a planning partner in 2014. The advice at that time was that Board of Health has broad jurisdictional and enforcement powers in the Commonwealth, and that they're a good authority to manage the permitting program. So they're largely the managers of the permitting program. Again, the ordinance is yours. You have jurisdiction on the details in the ordinance, but the Board of Health has the authority to manage the permitting program, and they utilize engineering, water and sewer to kind of do that process.
Good, that's good. Last question, I think. What's the real-world impact that this new ordinance is going to have on future projects in the city?
So for projects that meet those requirements, and they're larger projects, these are not small projects, these are not residential projects, these are large commercial projects for the most part. At a minimum, 5,000 square feet for disturbances within the combined sewer area, 5,000 square feet for higher pollutant loads, and then 1 acre threshold. So these are larger projects in the city, but they will have some impact. These are going to require a higher level of water quality treatment for those facilities that are being designed and built in the city.
And can you give an example? Are there any I'll be grandfather, right? So the question now is, would they have, had we had them, are there any current projects that this would be impacting?
So currently, with the regulations not being, I guess, put in place, we've had them in the file that what engineering and water and sewer department have been doing is asking the project developers in the city to adhere to some of the information included in there. There's nothing that says that we cannot do it. So I've typically, the way that Felix Garcia, the city engineer, and myself have been doing, whenever we get a submittal for site development, we are the one drafting a memo or a letter to the developer asking them to do certain things to protect, to provide the protection that's now included and mandated in this permit. For example, one example that we currently have, and I believe it might be in your area, is 423 Merrimack Street, part of the development being done by the Lupoli companies at the end near the 495 interchange. So there on that site, it used to be a parking lot, a surface parking lot, and I believe they demo a building in one of the sites as well to now put in a car wash, gas station, and I believe a small shop associated with like a superette type of that you see along with gas stations. So with that redevelopment, we're asking them to put in a whole drainage system that is going to take all the runoff from the site and connect it to our stormwater drainage in that area and make it and put it into the Shawsheen River. But along with containing the stormwater, they also need to add some water quality components to that, which means that they have to clean up the runoff that's coming off from that site also will need to be cleaned up. So that's one site, and they submitted, they received the information, they submitted a plan to Felix and I for review, and they were approved. I recently completed an inspection of what's being done on the site, and they're following the guidelines provided by the city. So what this ordinance update and the acceptance of the regulations by the Board of Health will do, we will implement it and standardize it and not leave it up to, to the departmental review. It's set in the ordinance, and the developers will have the guidelines and the mandate of what they'll need to follow moving
Madam
forward.
Chair.
Okay. Councilor De La Cruz, you have any question?
Will the work be for communities such as there is a very bad drainage situation on Prospect Hill around Hamilton Street? Will that area be included as well?
You have to repeat the question. They could not understand what you was trying to ask.
I understood that they're gonna help some of the drainage to direct the water to different places, right?
So that is the intent. You're asking, just to be clear, you're asking if what we're implementing here will help with some of the drainage issues that you're seeing in the Prospect Hill area? Did I get that question correct, Counselor De La Cruz?
Hamilton Street and Josephine Street, they have a sewer water problem. The people get water in their basement all the time.
Okay.
And will this request include that area as well?
So, would you be able to speak to that a little bit, or in general? Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Depending on what the nature of the root cause of the problem is, we can't just base on, I'm familiar with the area. I know where the streets are. I can't say I'm familiar with exactly what is going on. There could be a number of reasons why a basement could take water, Councilor De La Cruz, one of them being just groundwater moving through the area and the home having a fieldstone foundation. So that allows for water to go into the basement. Or it could be that's just an example, because I know that's one way. But we can definitely look at that. But the intent of this ordinance in general is to help with, stormwater management that will help now and the future. As you know, with climate change, we don't expect, we're expecting larger storms, heavier storms. So us having ordinance that helps us control stormwater management through the development that is done in the city, so it's effective and consistent throughout the city. We're hoping that it does help with those issues. With issues that already exist, we'll have to look at exactly what's causing the problems and then maybe finding some solutions from there. But the purpose of this ordinance is to help the city manage its stormwater runoff, which is one of the consequences of having a poorly managed system is urban flooding, as well as on the quantity side, and then impacts to our water bodies on the quality side.
Okay. So my question is about education. I'm clear what ordinance is going to be changed and how this is going to improve for the future constructions. But how are we going to be placing the education piece?
So there is already an education component as part of the permit. I don't know if any of you have seen our beautiful posting that we have on the DPW page each month. I receive some posting regarding water quality and stormwater management. Most recently around, using fertilizers in your lawn, picking up your pet waste, things that the public should be doing. That's beyond this update is more geared to redevelopment, but there is part that we need the public to help us with in terms of managing the quality of the runoff in the city. So that's the educational component. We also include some educational pieces whenever the space allows in our consumer quality report each year that goes out to residents. So we do our best to include. So we are required to include educational components in as part of our permit, and those are the types of things that we currently do in the department. We're open to hear any other suggestions that you can think that we can get it out to the public.
Thank you, Commissioner Puello. The issue that we've been facing with all of this, which is unrelated to this topic, is that we have overflowed drainage, that every time it's rain, we have to be dealing with that, and I know that we have to, and as a matter of fact, it was on Sunday, Councilor Reyer and myself, we were in a neighborhood meeting We have to put it on a Sunday just because many of the people, they want to be participating. And one of the topic was about that. And I knew that I was going to see you today, which has nothing to do with what you were presenting. And thank you for putting this together. And just to kind of make our improvement, just kind of slide it and smoothing.
Yeah.
But is in any chance or at any time you think if we can sit with you and just to kind of develop a plan, just to, I know that our residents, they're not gonna go out and clean the drainage.
Yeah.
But how often the city of Florence have to kind of review it and not wait until something happen, because basically this is what is happening every time we have a torrential.
Yep. So we do have an issue with urban flooding. It's not only in the city of Lawrence. There are a number of things that cause that. One of them you mentioned is the cleaning of the catch basin. So it happens that whenever we get rain and water starts running, it carries trash with it. So what we're seeing a lot throughout the city is that our catch basins, which are intended, their job is, as Zach presented in his graphic, is to take the water from the street and put it into the piping system, and either put it into our combined system or put it into our separated system and into the rivers by one way or another. If those catch basins get blinded, as we call it, essentially the trash covers all the holes. So it covers the holes, it's not gonna take water. So that causes water to pond in the streets, and that's what people are seeing, as street flooding. There are also locations in the system that we are aware where capacity is an issue. And capacity means that, we're getting heavier and heavier storms these days. So we have a very intense storm. The system gets, we have pipes that are with limited capacity. There's only so much volume of water that can fit into that pipe, and it'll fill up quickly. And given that it's such an intense storm, so a large amount of water in a very short period, the piping system gets filled up and surcharged, and it doesn't allow for any more water to go during the storm. But shortly after, as the water moves out and the storm subsides, then it goes in. So there are a number of issues related to that, related to the heavier storms, downpours, and also issues with the system and issues that we have in the street. I know the administration is currently working very hard in making sure that our streets are cleaned. So street sweeping, we also combined with the cleaning of the catch basin that the department and the operations crew do. We try to mitigate that. It doesn't solve it completely, but it does help. We have found. So that's something else that we need to address. That we're working on addressing within the city. I'm happy to discuss any specific areas that you have in mind, and we can look at it more closely from an engineering perspective and see if there's anything that we can implement to alleviate what's going on. Yeah.
But thank you. So I personally have no more questions. So can I get a motion to send it with favor recommendation?
So move.
Motion has been made, properly seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor Selena Reyes?
Yes.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz? Councilor President?
Yes.
And the chair is voting affirmative.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner, you know that you need to be present to our next city council meeting. I know that it's going to be many questions that I'm not going to be able to answer. So I think it would be helpful, that presentation, and if any councilor has any question, you can be there to answer.
Will do.
And thank you both
Thank
for
you so
being here.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question? Will that documentation be sent to the city clerk so it's part of our package for Tuesday's meeting?
She can send it over. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a request. I'm sure that she's going to be.
Just to clarify, would you like us to do the presentation again in the full council, or just provide the information to the council?
I think we should go that way. So that way, they're going to get all that information in once. And asking you a question, so you kind of go over one by one, okay?
We can do that.
And good job, by the way.
Thank you.
Counselor, can I get a motion to take document 18322 out of order?
So move.
Motion to take document 18322 out of order has been made. Can I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been made, properly seconds. All those in favor? The ayes have it. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor President LaPlante.
Yes.
And the chair is voting yes. Document 18322, a discussion on an ordinance chapter 15.14. It has been put in the agenda by former Councilor Modesto Maldonado and Lower Housing Authority, Efrain Rolon. Sir.
Good evening. Good evening, councilors. My name is Efrain Roland. I'm the director of the Lawrence Housing Authority. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come in front of you today. The reason I'm here today is to request your consideration in amending the Lawrence Municipal Code, particularly the ordinance under Chapter 15.14, rental unit inspections, Section 15.14.010. There's a couple of definitions that I wanted to bring to your attention on that will support our position as to why I'm here today. Under this ordinance, in its definition of purpose, it was created to implement a proactive rental inspection program to improve the quality of city housing, ensure safe and healthy living conditions for city residents, also to identify all units in the city on a continuous and recurring basis in order to facilitate property code enforcement in a transient rental market. The Lawrence Housing Authority as an agency was designed and created as a governmental entity to do just that, to perform its inspections and abide to state and federal mandates and regulations, which include the state Massachusetts Sanitary Code. We inspect the units ourselves when the applicants move in. We inspect the units ourselves through our managers that are there available, as well as our staff 365 days out of the year. And we also inspect the units when the residents move out. As an agency, I believe that we are already meeting the purpose of this ordinance. And so, also, under the definitions of this ordinance, it defines an owner as a for-profit or not-for-profit individual or corporation, as an agent of a for-profit or not-for-profit individual or corporation, or any person having a legal charge of or an authority over private dwellings, tenements, a lodging house, or other residential rental properties dedicated for the residential use. The definition of a public housing authority means that a state, county, municipality, or other governmental entities, or public body or agency, or instrumentally of these entities that is authorized to engage or assist in the development and the operations of low-income housing under the United States Act of 1937 in accordance with Section 24 of the Code of the Federal Regulation, particularly 5.1, meaning that the housing authority shall not be considered an owner. It is a governmental organization responsible for maintaining the units that they manage. I'm here today to request an amendment with the following language, which is stated on 15.14.040. The language that I will read to you is similar to the language that is in the city of Boston, and most of the 254 plus housing authorities throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which are, I've yet to found one that requires for inspectional services to provide them with an occupancy permit. We get inspected by the state every year, we get inspected by the federal government every year, and we are responsible to conduct our inspections ourselves also every year. The language is for rental units owned and operated by the federal and state or city government to be exempt from the registration and inspection requirements of this ordinance. And this only refers to the registration and requirement of occupancy permits. That doesn't mean that the units cannot be inspected by any city inspector on any complaint or any issues that arise that we are responsible for. And that's what I'm here to request of this ordinance committee.
Okay, before I open the floor, I know that former Councilor Maldonado was putting something into this. This is going to be the same item, or you wish to divide it in two, that he can come and speak what he's looking to change, and if he is something different than what you just told us?
So I spoke to Councilor Maldonado today, and he's unable to attend. I would like to request that this is considered different. These are completely two different issues. It just so happens that it's based on the same ordinance. I'm here to represent the Lawrence Housing Authority. Councilor Maldonado's intentions are other than that. So if this is, it would be ideal if it could be separated for my request to be considered and to give the opportunity to Councilor Maldonado to present his position to this committee.
Councilor President.
Thank you. So there's several items. So there's a parliamentary part of this question, and when we get these things on the agenda, it is so voluminous. We have pages upon pages of things, both at the full council and our committees, that it's hard to keep track of all the different things. And frankly, we're not really supposed to be having an item on the agenda that duplicates the other one. I realize that there's a nuance between, potentially, I'm not sure, there might be a nuance between what Council President Maldonado has put on the agenda versus what you have put on the agenda. It deals with the same ordinances, correct? Which
is the reason why I believe I'm here, and he's not here for other reasons, but this is the reason I came. The issues are completely different. I can't speak as to what his presentation exactly is going to be, but I know that it is in regards to the same ordinance.
Different, so there's different languages. There's different language that he's advocating, that you're advocating. There's different kinds of changes that you're looking to tweak.
Yes.
That's fine. So let's move on.
Okay.
So through you, Madam Chair. So the question is, in our document, on our packet here, unless I'm missing something, do you have something that you are submitting to the City Council that articulates the actual changes? Because I'm not seeing it in my packet that I've got electronically.
I did not submit any documents articulating our position, but I'd be more than glad to do that.
Yes, I mean, I think as a fair practice, we should be asking any petitioner, if they're looking to change an ordinance, that they provide for us the language they're looking to change. I don't have that information. I see an email that was submitted, and you gave a very good explanation. But sometimes what I'm hearing may be different than what I see on a piece of paper.
Okay.
No fault of the presenter, but rather I'm only picking up things that I think that are important or whatever, and meanwhile I may be missing the big picture. So having it written down on a piece of paper that eventually gets into our ordinance book is absolutely critical, so we all are on the same page. So for me, if this is a significant change, and if I understand correctly, what you're looking to do is to take away some of the onerous regulations, probably not your words, but regulations Because you have because of what you're doing as your mission statement, as a government entity looking to do certain things within that, you don't want to be able to have those regulations applied upon you. And I may be inartfully saying that, so please correct me, because I don't have the document here in front of me. So-
Okay, and I don't have a document, and I will make sure that I present something to the council before we go in front of the full council. I will definitely bring a document explaining it. In your ordinance, in the beginning of it, you have a purpose of why it was created, which is to inspect units and provide safe, affordable housing, safe and healthy living housing for the residents. What I read to you is basically saying that's what we were created to do, because we do the inspections. There's also a correlation on the cost of having your staff in the city doing inspections that are not necessary, because we're already being overseen by the state and the federal government. Also, under those definitions, you have the definition of what an owner is. And our position to you is that we're not an owner/landlord. We are a government agency created solely for the purpose of providing safe, affordable housing under state regulation, federal regulation, and the Code of Massachusetts Sanitary Code. In this ordinance, it's a blanket that includes every unit that is in the city of Lawrence. Our position is that we're not any unit in the city of Lawrence. We are a governmental agency designed and created to manage, maintain, and inspect the units to the same or more stringent standards that the city is responsible for. And that's what I would like to request for the language, which it will be the same, similar to what they have on the Boston Housing Authority, the city of Boston, Worcester, Springfield, Methuen. I called every city and town and looking for their language on how they have ordinances on inspections, and they pretty much have the same language, which is that they exempt properties that are managed by the state, the federal government, or the city from these inspections. And that's the part that I would like to request to be amended or added, because it's not there on the ordinance.
So, Madam Chair, I'm very curious to hear what other committee members have to say or questions or comments on this. I will recommend that if the director can bring to this committee the sample language that the director finds to be advantageous, whether it's Boston, whether it's Worcester, whatever the other community is, if that language seems to be a good fit, I don't think we're looking to recreate the wheel here with this. So if you've got something that works, that shows what you're trying to accomplish, I think the committee, I would encourage the committee to review that language, and then provide for the full council after the review, whether the committee thinks it's a good idea or not a good idea.
Okay.
For a vote.
I mean, I will definitely follow up in writing. The language is literally one sentence to be added to the 15.14.040 section of your ordinance. And the language is for rental units owned and operated by the federal, state, and city government to be exempt from the registration and inspection requirements of this ordinance.
So,
That
Madam-
is the language that is similar to every other city and town that I found.
If it is as simple as that, but I would encourage you to submit that language in that
writing.
language.
Okay.
If you can do it tonight, it's up to the committee chair how she wants to deal with this, of course. But I guess
But I have it written here,
Well-
I can submit this, or do you want a formalized letter from my office? I don't.
I don't need a formal.
No. If you have the sentences
Yeah,
that
it's
we need to change, we don't need to hold this down. So I'm familiar, you was open and explain very well what you're looking to change.
Okay. Yeah. Okay,
You don't need to make two trips for something that we can send it up pending the sentences. So just,
can
yeah,
I
you can
provide
give
her
it to,
with-
yeah.
Do I still have the floor? I got a question for him as a follow-up.
Yeah, you can
while
ask
they're
the
doing it.
question.
Madam Chair, thank you for your patience and for your indulgence, Madam Chair, through you. So, what is happening now that is so onerous, my words, that requires this change? And then with this new language, if adopted, how is that providing the relief that you think you need to make your situation at the Housing Authority better?
so I've had several conversations with inspectional services about this. This ordinance involves the registration of every unit, or any owner that has more, I believe, 2 units to be registered with the city at a cost of $25. It also requires for every unit to be inspected within 3 years at a cost, I believe, of $75. We have 1,500 units throughout the north and south of the city. That would be a $150,000 plus cost that is not part of our budget. That being said, being, again, that we are not, and this is we can argue back and forth whether we're a landlord or not, we have 60 employees. We have carpenters, plumbers, electricians. Our units have to meet federal, state, and sanitary code guidelines. For us to be part of a registering units that are registered with the state, the federal government, that not only do we inspect and maintain, they inspect it themselves every year. It doesn't seem like a feasible utilization of your staffing, dollars, and efforts. You know, I understand some of the issues are illegal units or in some of the homes that we have throughout the city. I understand that it may involve landlords that don't reside in properties and don't take care of it. And I understand that the purpose of the ordinance is actually to make sure that you can enforce and provide safe and healthy housing for the residents of Lawrence. Well, we do that. And if our residents have a complaint against us, it doesn't stop them from going to inspectional services and say, hey, they haven't fixed my window. That doesn't change anything. But this registration on units that belong to the state and federal government, for us to be considered an owner, we're not. Our properties were created in the city beginning in 1938, when the Merrimack courts started to be built. Second to that was the Hancock courts, and then the Beacon courts and the Stadium courts. Our units are in pretty decent shape. As a housing authority, we're considered high performance, meaning that when they inspect our units, we get a pretty decent rating. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Do we have issues? Of course, we have 1,500 units throughout the city. But that is the essence of a housing authority as an entity, not a landlord or an owner. That being said, the need for this administrative burden of registering units that are registered with the federal government and the state government doesn't seem feasible. It doesn't really make sense to me. For our inspectors from the city going into units that are inspected by our public housing managers that are all certified to inspect the units when somebody moves in, when somebody moves out. The tenant actually signs a form saying, is this unit in good conditions before they can move in? Does every landlord do that? I mean, the amount of work that we do to even put somebody in to be compliant with the state and federal regulations, it's actually pretty significant and cumbersome. So,
question. I just have to add, no, thank you. I just have to add one more thing. Most of single complaint, and you know that most of the time I'm inside of those buildings. So thank you for taking care of that. So I can say and add a little bit even more. For this pandemic, I couldn't sit in any other building what he had done. So I know how well you maintain your building, and I understood perfectly what you're trying to look at, which I'm on your side, because yes, so I know that you have every year state inspection, because like I say, most of your tenants, sometimes they call and they panic, and you know that you and I, we have been in communication that what do they mean that they need to re-inspect when something is going on, which it has nothing to do with the state, but yes, with the inspection that you do at least every 3 months, that you've been saying that all do smell. So I'm just gonna ask Councilor LaPlante to ask the last question, and then I have Councilor De La Cruz raising, she has her hands are.
Thank you so much. And the last question, and thank you for the great explanation. I get it now. So I see that you're looking just to change the language to essentially remove the obligation for public housing authorities. Also, in the sheet of paper that you gave, it defined what a public housing authority is. I don't have the ordinance in front of me. Is there, in the ordinance, the current ordinance, our ordinances, does it have a definition section?
It does, and
And-
those were the points that I addressed just from the beginning. When you create,
So let me ask my question. So do we need to also include a definition of what you have in the sheet of paper is a definition of public housing authority? Do we need that in your estimation
I don't
as
think
part of the
so.
ordinance?
I don't think so, because the ordinance was created to address issues within the city. And by instituting or amending, by adding that simple sentence, what it would do is that it would exempt the city, the state, and federal properties for having to participate in an ordinance that literally blanketed every residential unit. You know, it's may or may not be a similar comparison, but it would be like having a nursing home getting their units inspected. Why would you do that? They get inspected by the medical facilities, they get inspected by the state, they get inspected by the federal government. They're not part of this. Somehow we were looped into this. We didn't really have any input on the creation of it. And as part of our position, I cannot or could not find one housing authority in the Commonwealth that has to go through this. Not that that makes us any special, but it's because this is what we do.
Let me just give Councilor De La Cruz.
Hi. Yes.
Have to get the inspector from the state and the federal government?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If you have a tenant that, because of certain behavior, you need to take out of the apartment, do you have to call the inspector from the federal and the state government?
If I have a tenant, if I understand this correctly, that I need to evict, do I have to involve the state or the federal government inspectors?
Yes.
No. The only reason that we would, first of all, we're in the housing business, so we try not to evict anybody. However, sometimes we do, and the only reason that we would evict anybody is because they're in violation of the lease. Whether it's a cost violation by, having a felony, gun possession, drug possession, or non-payment of rent. So the federal and state government does not get involved in that. We would involve the courts and cite the violations on the lease that lead us to that. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Well, maintain your building. You know that I'm going to take this opportunity to say this in public. You have my offer a long time ago that if you need to go anywhere out of the state, of course, if you pay for my flight ticket, I will go, and I advocate it, and also to recognize the great job, that you are doing with your building.
Thank you.
So as you know, since we are going to have a small portion of changes of ordinance, we have to order a public hearing.
Okay.
So that's the legal proceed. So we are going to be ordering a public hearing. However, so I think I'm going to send this item, and I'm just going to, if someone can talk to Councilor Maldonado, what he wants to do, and if he needs to present another item that is presenting, because I don't see why that we have to split, even though it's in the same ordinance, you are talking about something completely different. So he needs to submit another items with the piece of ordinance that he might wants to change,
Yeah.
which has nothing or include what you are looking to do, okay?
I will speak to him about that. I can't speak on his behalf.
Yeah, no, I know.
I think that it'll be great for this committee to hear his position.
Oh, yeah.
As a public process, I think that it would be helpful for a discussion to be had about how this ordinance may be affecting his position. So I will speak to him and let him know of your recommendation moving forward.
If this help, I can ask our secretary to place a phone call to him and explain what he needs to do. I know that he's very familiar with the process, but I don't want to confuse what you just explained. I got it the minute you explained it. But,
Okay.
you know, we have to kind of be open for any other counselor that they might have more question, and I don't want to relate one item to another,
Okay.
even though it's in the same ordinance,
So he
okay?
needs to, okay.
So I can
that'd
ask,
be great.
I can ask our secretary to give him a call tomorrow,
Okay,
okay?
that'll be great.
So
Thank you.
the motion is to send it with the favor recommendation to order a public hearing pending that ordinance or the information that you're going to be providing to us as soon as it's going to be better. So
believe
if
I
you
already
need
did.
more, or this is all set with the one?
Madam Chair, I think he just looks for that one bullet point, not the definition, is all he's asking for, and it makes sense. So I'm willing to make that motion. I've got a question on it as soon
Yeah.
as we're, if
Yeah.
it's on the
So
second.
make the motion with that, what will you request from him to provide?
So we already have the information, so we need to send this up to the city attorney, of course, because they need to provide that information, right, to the full, that's what you
Yeah.
typically do. So motion is to send this up to the city attorney for proper language, also to send it up to the full council with a favorable recommendation to order a public hearing. That is my motion, and then I want a discussion.
Second with discussion.
Discussion. So I think, Madam Chair, I think what I really liked about your earlier comment was that if we could save a couple of bucks to the taxpayers on a notice, because we're getting hammered on these public notices, if we get Council President Maldonado in here and see what his changes are, if they're not contradictory to each other, we might be able to go ahead and do it. If they are contradictory to each other, now we've got an issue, because we have to figure out which are we looking to do.
I'm not sure if that would be a fair process to look at this, Counselor, with all due respect.
I'm not familiar with, I need to be refreshed on what Councilor Maldonado is doing. It's been many years now since I
Which is
last
the
looked at it.
reason why I believe he should come in front of this committee and present his position,
So,
aside from ours, which are completely different topics.
Yeah. So
I'm
he-
here representing the Housing Authority.
yeah,
Is his, I don't know, this is an unfair question, and I'm gonna ask you the very unfair question, and if you say I don't know, that's fine. Is his language deal with 15.14.040 the same exact thing, or is it something different?
No, it's something different.
No.
That's what I'm saying, that we need
It may
to
work.
ask.
It may work if you've got two different things,
Yeah.
unless they're conflicting.
No, we are gonna be, so what I'm gonna ask tomorrow is, gonna ask former Councilor Maldonado to submit his document. So that way we're gonna have two separate documents, even though we have the same draft, same ordinance, but it's some changes that it have to be completely on his side, and this is not gonna be on the housing side. So what we're gonna continue with this motion is just to send, yeah, we're just gonna ask him to submit and not to confuse it, and then he can start working from that.
Okay.
Because I'm sure that he was aware that he needs to be here, so it would be easier for us just to, but I don't want, just to split this document and just holding up the full council just because someone do not understand what you guys try to do together.
The only common denominator, if I may,
Yes?
the only common denominator is that is the same ordinance. The positions that I'm taking are on behalf of the Housing Authority. Whatever position Mr. Maldonado will be taking is his. So I'm not sure procedurally how exactly that would work. I think that the separation of both issues would be ideal, but that would be up to the council.
So the motion has made and properly second. So Pat, you have the motion to send it to the city attorney for the final draft, and also with favor recommendation to order public hearing. Okay? Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor President.
Yes.
And the chair is voting affirmative. So, Mr. Rolon, our secretary is going to let you know when you need to be present to our next city council meeting.
Okay.
This is going to be 2 weeks from, so whenever we can order the public hearing.
Thank you, Madam
Good
Chair.
night.
Councilors,
Thank you.
thank you.
More document that we're going to be taking out of order, and then we're just going to go to one by one. Can I get a motion to take document 19222 out of order?
So move.
Motion has been made. Properly second. Is all those in favor?
Aye.
Councilor Selena Reyes?
Yes.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz? One 9222. And Councilor, President?
Yes.
And the chair is voting yes. Document 19222 is a Christian Rayleigh handed Schofield Playstead Crony Playground on 7/16 from 4 through 8 and 8/20 from 4 through 8.
Good evening.
Good evening. Name and address for the record.
My name is Jorge Colon, pastor of the congregation Christ the King of the Church.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit what are you going to do?
Yeah, I had written a letter that I hand one to each of you. Christ the King Church, Assembly of God, Jorge Colon and Rosibel Colon, my wife over there. June 14, 2022. Lawrence City Councils, dear honorable councils, my name is Jorge Colon, and our congregation would like to have several Christian rallies through the city with the purpose of sharing the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ, our Savior. A message of hope, faith, and love for youngsters, elders in our community. The park names, days, and times are at the bottom of this letter. We want to thank you for this opportunity, and may the Lord bless each and every one of you in a very special way.
Okay, so I have June 25th. I
Yes.
have July 14. I have August 6
Yes,
and August 20.
yes,
They all gonna be 4 through 8. So I'm assuming that you checked it with, okay, June, and it will be 30. Okay, so then I have here, the 4 will be at 30 Smith Street.
yes, that's a property, that's where we live.
So you check all the day with Recreation Department and they gave you the okay?
Yes.
Okay.
And after that, they told me to,
Okay, so, we only have this letter. We usually get, okay. You got it. So, this has nothing personal with your church or congregation. But if you're gonna have a speaker or amplifier, it needs to be toward to your group.
sure,
So it cannot be to the public. Sometimes, people's, watching TV and they can hear, all that. And we've been getting a lot of complaints about that. Like I say, that has nothing to do with you. I have to repeat it myself every single time we have an applicant in front of us, just because of the numbers of complaints that we've been getting. So I understand that the cause is very good and we'll take it. But again, it's many people that they feel like they don't want to be part of that, so and we also need to respect that.
sure, no problem.
So the set and wrap up time is gonna give you enough time to leave the park cleaner or the same condition as you found it?
Oh, yeah.
Or that's gonna be all set?
Yes,
Councilor President, you have any questions?
I just want to say that it appears like everything's in order, number one. Number two, there is no permit that we provide for a private residence. 30 Smith Street is a private residence, so there's no permit. The council doesn't issue it, but with the council, Madam Chair, the council provides permits for city parks.
Okay.
So 3 of them, the first 3 are city parks. So we should not be at all even discussing 30 Smith Street. That should not be before us. So at the proper time for the motion, I would recommend that the motion would be to send up to the full council with a favorable recommendation, the Cronin, the Hayden, and the Gagnon
Yeah.
Park sites for a permit. That would be my recommendation.
So can you make that a motion? Because I don't think anyone has. Is any other question, Councilor? No? So you make the motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we send up to the council with a favorable recommendation to approve the permits for the use of Cronin Park on June 25th from 4 to 8 p.m., for Hayden Schofield on July 16th from 6:30 to 9 p.m., and at Gannon Park on Providence Street on August 6th from 4 to 8 p.m., and to make that in the form of a motion.
Before I call the question, I have Councilor De La Cruz. Councilor De La Cruz?
No, I lower my hand.
Oh, okay, okay. So the motion has been made,
Second.
properly seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor De La Cruz? Councilor Selena Reyes?
Yes.
Councilor President?
Yes.
And the chair is voting affirmative. The motion passed. So I just want to, you need to be present to our next city council meeting, just in case that one of the councilors they're not present today, they have any question.
Sure, no
That's
problem.
going to be, when is going to be, the next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, 21st.
The 21st. Okay?
Okay.
And thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Okay. You say you have an.
Madam Chair, I'd like to take document number 19022 out of order.
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor De La Cruz. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
President,
Yes.
and the chair is voting yes. Document 190, an ordinance adopting and enacting the new code for the city of Lawrence. Councilor President.
Madam Chair, by our charter, we're required to go ahead and recodify our ordinances every 10 years. We need to get that process going. What this document is to get the process going. So we are about to get very soon a very big book. I don't have my book here with us that has all the recodified ordinances through up and until April 1st of this year. So when you get that big book, when we get that in the next 6 weeks or so, it's going to be all that. But we need to get that big book approved, and so we need to send this up to the city attorney so that they can go ahead and to make sure that and it's just draft language inside our packet, but to review that draft language, tweak it if they need to, and then send it to the full council so that we can vote on it. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to make a motion, just like we did earlier, to send this document with the background information to the city attorney for their review, and to send this item up to the full council with a favorable recommendation to order a public hearing.
Okay.
So move.
So motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Yeah. Councilor Maria de la Cruz.
Yes.
And Councilor President.
Yes.
The chair is voting affirmative.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I need to leave this evening, unfortunately, but
Councilor de la Cruz, do you have any question? Your hands is up. Okay, continue.
It's not up. You see it?
Yes.
Oh, something is wrong then.
Okay. So, what is the other document?
Madam Chair, I'd like to take document number 18822 out of order.
18822.
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilor de la Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor President.
Yes.
And the chair is voting affirmative. Councilor President, 187, right?
Thank you. No, 188.
188, I'm sorry, 188.
Yep. So, Madam Chair, this document should not be before us. They are using, there's no city council permit required. All it requires is the police department's approval. I'm looking to move this up to.
Before you make the motion, I don't know who's passing the wrong information about this. We've been getting a lot of phone calls looking for permit from us just to have a block party or party inside on the backyard or something. So we need to look into this. So make the motion, yes?
I'd like to make a motion that we send document one, to withdraw, make a recommendation to withdraw document number 18822, or to put in file.
Yeah. So motion has been made,
So move.
properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor President.
Yes.
And the chair is voting affirmative. You taking off? Thank you, Councilor President. Yes, I will. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to go to the top of the agenda. Document 18122, resolution establishing an appropriated fee structure for utility and company. Councilor Del Rosario. Can I get a motion to table this document and send correspondent to Councilor Rosario to be present to our next ordinance meeting?
So move.
Motion has been made. Properly second to table document 8122. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Councilor Selena Reyes to table document 81.
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz.
Yes.
And the chair is voting affirmative. Next document is document 82, resolution limited food trucks to one per business. It also has been put on the agenda by Councilor Gregory De Rosario. Can I get a motion to table and again send correspondent to Councilor De Rosario to be present to our next ordinance committee meeting? And I make that, make the motion.
So move.
Motion has been made to table document 8222 and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilor De La Cruz to table document 82, 182.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
And the chair is voting yes. Okay, next document is 18522, declaration of Square Park Union Street Canal, and has been put on the agenda by myself. Councilor, let me just explain what is happening here. This is the park that Ateneo Dominicanos is always decorating and maintaining, cleaning. They put it just to be safe. I'm just going to continue moving up, but I think, you know, they had been doing a great job just to keep up with that park. So I'm looking to send this document with favorable recommendation.
So move.
Motion has been made. All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilor De La Cruz. We cannot. We only have 3 items. Do you have any reason to be present? You want them to be here, or what is it?
I believe I haven't been around there. I haven't seen it, and I don't want to give an opinion on something that I'm not sure of.
So we can table the document. Can I get a motion to table, withdraw the first motion and table document 18522?
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor? The ayes have it. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Maria De La Cruz.
Yes.
Affirmative. I can tell you, discussion of that. 16622, parking 2 hour along Broadway from Water Street to Manchester Street, in access from Union Street to Winter Street, until new parking contract take place. It has been put on the agenda by Councilor Rodriguez, myself, and Councilor Del Rosario. Councilor, what we are looking to do is this. The business are getting tired of getting ticket and not to be able to exercise their right just because people park there all day long, and it's taking a lot from this business. So looking for, I know that we have a new parking contract, but in the meantime, we need to alleviate this problem until that happens, because we don't know how long this is going to take, and our business are suffering the consequences. So can I get a motion to send document 186 to Officer Cano, and also to table the document?
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz. Yes. And the chair is voting affirmative. So, Pat, it is to table and to send to Officer Cano. So 18722, Annual Community Resource Fair, Campanile Common on 8/10 from 11 a.m. through 5 p.m. Rained day is going to be 8/17. The 10 is the regional day, and rain day in case is going to be 8/17. It has been put on the agenda by Vilma Martinez Dominguez. So, Councilor, I'm looking to send this item with favor recommendation pending some signatures that she is working on that. So the motion is to send it with favor recommendation pending the signature that is missing.
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Maria De La Cruz.
Yes.
And the chair is voting affirmative. Next document is 18922, handicap parking at 238 Haver Street. Has been put on the agenda by Jose Blanco Cruz. Can I get a motion to send document 18922 22 to Officer Cano and table the document. Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Document 19422, request the easement acquisition on 2 South Broadway. And Counselor, I spoke to a land user planner, Mr. McCarthy, and he wants us to table this document. Can I get a motion to table document 19422?
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor? Aye. Councilor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
And the chair is voting to table document 194 is passed. So the last document is 19522 is the same. And Mr. McCarthy asked us to table document 19522. Motion to table document 19522. Motion has been made. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
And the chair is voting yes to table document 195. Councilor, any table document that you wish to take it at this time? Yes, Councilor De La Cruz.
Document 10622.
What document?
22. It's in the second page.
I get a motion to take document 10622 out of table.
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Councilor De La Cruz.
Yeah, I would like to send.
106. Okay. So, Councilor Salina? Yes. Councilor De La Cruz?
Yes.
And the chair is voting yes. 106 is Bohem Street, one-way, tenant parking only. Councilor De La Cruz. Okay, Councilor De La Cruz?
Yes, Madam, this item has been there waiting for the city engineer. I believe that Mr. Cano already did the studies, and we're just waiting for the city engineer. And I would like the letter to be sent to the city engineer to give us information about that.
Okay, Councilor De La Cruz, I know, I met with the city engineer. He took some time off. He is a new father, and he has a list of over 50 streets that is going to be changing to two ways to one way, and that is one of the streets. So I encourage you to leave it table, and I'm going to continue working with him, but the information is going to be released soon. Okay? So can I get a motion to table, to retable document 10622?
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilor Selena Reyes to retable it.
Yes.
Councilor Maria De La Cruz?
Yes.
And the chair is voting yes. Any other document? Hear none. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor Selena Reyes?
Yes.
And the chair is voting yes. Thank you, Councilor, to be present, and thank you, our note-taking, our beautiful Secretary Pat, thank you. And of course, he always say that I forget about in the back room, just to thank you both.